In the workshop's quiet hum, dust motes danced, not aimlessly, but with chilling purpose. They coalesced on a forgotten shelf, forming intricate columns of shifting numerical data. These spectral figures tallied unseen accounts, their presence a silent, unsettling declaration. The air shimmered faintly as invisible weights pressed down upon the very essence of existence. A soft exhalation from the crew stirred the air, and the dust numbers subtly reformed themselves. Each breath seemed to register a tiny, immeasurable shift in the workshop's silent ledger. Tick, ever attuned to the world's hidden rhythms, felt a faint, rhythmic counting beneath the hum. It was a whisper of arithmetic, a subtle pulse that thrummed within the very walls themselves. An unseen abacus clicked, its beads sliding across an ethereal wire, adding up unknown sums. The workshop, usually a place of comfort, now felt like a silent, watchful archive. Their gazes met, a shared unease, tightening the atmosphere with an unspoken question. A cold dread began to settle, a premonition of something vast and ancient stirring awake. This wasn't just dust. It was a record, silently compiling information about their every move. The air grew heavy with the weight of unseen calculations, a pervasive sense of being observed. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of light, felt like an entry in this silent account. Deep within a forgotten maintenance quarter, an oppressive chill clung to the very air. Here, a vast wall stretched, completely coated in a fine, gray dust, like a colossal chalkboard. Ancient energies pulsed softly from its surface, a faint, almost imperceptible hum resonating. Upon this dusty canvas, countless tallies appeared, inscribed with an unsettling, otherworldly script. They detailed mundane repairs performed across the town, each a testament to civic maintenance. Yet, beside each repair, a chilling payment was listed, recorded in the same enigmatic, shifting dust. Moss, his eyes wide with dawning horror, traced a specific entry with a trembling digit. "Park swings," the dust declared, its ethereal script seeming to writhe and coil. Then, the chilling cost, 12 years of laughter, etched with cold, precise finality. A gasp escaped Moss's lips, his breath catching in the stagnant, heavy air of the corridor. The joyful echoes of children's play now felt tainted, a transaction with an unknown entity. He imagined the innocent giggles, unknowingly siphoned away, absorbed by this silent, hungry wall. A profound sadness settled upon him, a chilling realization of the town's hidden cost. The dust pulsed faintly, as if acknowledging his comprehension. Its silent message, understood. Other entries blurred into grotesque poetry. Road patch, 3 months of what? Broken fountain, a father's pride. Each line, a stolen fragment of humanity's spirit. The corridor felt colder, the dust seeming to absorb warmth, both physical and emotional. They stood transfixed, the chilling implications of the ledger slowly seeping into their minds. Every repair, every convenience, was a debt collected from the town's unsuspecting residents. The very fabric of FluffTown, its comfort and stability, rested upon this predatory exchange. A silent terror began to bloom within their chests, cold and unforgiving like winter's grasp. The dust-covered wall now felt like a living, breathing entity, a monstrous accountant of souls. Their own memories felt suddenly fragile, vulnerable to the silent, insatiable hunger of the ledger. Luma, her mind racing, squinted at the swirling, complex symbols adorning the dusty surface. A flicker of recognition sparked in her eyes. She had seen these glyphs before, in Season 2. They were the same patterns, the intricate, crystalline structures from the blueprint condensation. The cold, precise language of the Foundation, now laid bare in this chilling, dusty display. The symbols pulsed with a faint, internal light, like glowing embers in a forgotten hearth. She understood. This was the true operating system, the hidden language of FluffTown's control. Pox, ever the observer of systemic patterns, noticed a disturbing correlation in the tallies. He pointed a trembling finger at 2 columns, their dust weaving a grotesque, inverse dance. As stability figures steadily climbed, the corresponding sulfate numbers dramatically dwindled. The towns.com was directly proportional to the erosion of its inhabitants' individual spirits. A chilling implication settled over them. Peace was purchased with the very essence of identity. The air grew thick with the weight of this revelation. A silent scream trapped in their throats. Stitch, with an instinctual dread, scanned the wall, his gaze drawn to a lower, darker section. There, faintly embossed, almost swallowed by the swirling gray, were familiar outlines. His heart pounded a frantic rhythm against his ribs as he recognized the shapes forming. It was their names, the crew's names, half hidden, half formed, a premonition of their fate. The dust seemed to shiver around them, a subtle vibration that resonated through the corridor. Their faces paled, a collective wave of icy fear washing over them as they faced their own entry. The ledger, this silent, predatory record, now acknowledged their presence, their very existence. A new tension coiled in the air, a sense of being watched, assessed, and ultimately claimed. They were no longer mere observers. They were becoming part of the chilling, ongoing transaction. The metallic temps of fear filled the air, a harsh taste on their suddenly dry tongues. Their names, once symbols of their shared purpose, now felt like ominous marks of ownership. The wall's silent hum seemed to deepen, a hungry growl echoing from unseen depths below. A cold, calculating intelligence seemed to emanate from the dusty surface, studying them now. They felt exposed, their every secret thought laid bare before this ancient, insatiable entity. The air grew colder still, stealing warmth from their bodies, chilling them to their very bones. This was the true face of the Foundation, not an engine, but a relentless, predatory ledger. A profound sense of vulnerability washed over them, leaving them breathless and utterly exposed. The faint embossing of their names now felt like a brand, irrevocably linking them to the debt. As they attempted to decipher the complex script, a chilling realization dawned upon them swiftly. Every single time they interpreted a line, the ledger's total inexplicably updated, growing higher. The dust shimmered, rearranging itself with an unnatural speed, reflecting their very act of knowing. Their comprehension was not an advantage, but a direct, immediate contribution to the deepening debt. The very act of reading was a payment, a chilling transaction made without their conscious consent. A cold dread settled deep in their guts, a sickening understanding of the trap they had entered. Tick's chest watch, usually a steadfast companion, suddenly flickered, its display wavering. A minute vanished from the digital readout, simply erased, replaced by an ominous, flashing word. "Oh!" The watch blared in stark red letters, its warning echoing the walls, silent demands. His eyes widened in terror. His own time, his very moments, were being siphoned away by the ledger. A silent scream formed in his throat, a primal fear seizing his mechanical heart in its grip. The air around them grew heavy, charged with the palpable energy of a debt being collected. Now, Moss felt a sudden, profound, hollowing sensation deep within his very being, a terrifying emptiness. A cherished memory, vibrant just moments ago, now felt distant, hazy, like a fading dream. It was slipping, dissolving into the ether, pulled away by the insatiable hunger of the wall. A wave of panic washed over him, a desperate attempt to grasp the fleeting fragment of his past, but it was gone, swallowed by the silent, relentless maw of the ledger, leaving only a void. His face contorted in a silent plea, a desperate realization of the true cost of their discovery. The ledger was not merely recording, it was actively consuming, taking pieces of their very souls. A cold, invisible hand seemed to reach into their minds, plucking at the threads of their memories. They stood frozen, utterly helpless, as the silent, predatory ledger continued its chilling work. Their very presence in the corridor was a liability, each second adding to an invisible, growing bill. The weight of the unpayable debt pressed down, suffocating them with its silent, insidious power. A palpable fear of erasure gripped them, a chilling premonition of their own eventual disappearance. They were trapped, their curiosity, now a weapon turned against their very existence, by the wall. The dust pulsed, a triumphant, silent beat, as their unwitting payments flowed into the ledger. The chilling sensation of loss lingered. A ghostly echo of the memory Moss could no longer grasp. A profound emptiness resonated within him, a stark testament to the ledger's insidious power. The team exchanged horrified glances, the silent threat of personal erasure now terrifyingly real. Each second spent near the wall felt like another fragment of themselves being silently siphoned away. They needed to understand the full scope of this predatory system despite the immediate danger. Leaving the corridor, they sought out the town's residents, observing them with new, wary eyes. Conversations shifted, focusing on the subtle, often unnoticed changes within FluffTown's populace. Many residents described feeling vaguely lighter after various civic fixes were completed. Their faces held a placid contentment, yet a certain spark, a vital energy, seemed absent now. The words carried an unsettling undertone, a sense of relief tinged with an inexplicable void. A talented musician, known for her vibrant melodies, now struggled with her creative flow. She recounted trying to recall a new composition, a beautiful tune she wrote just yesterday, but the notes had simply vanished, leaving only a frustrating, hollow echo in her mind's ear. Her brow furrowed in confusion, a genuine distress clouding her usually bright, artistic gaze. The joy of creation, too, was a currency for the ledger, silently siphoned from her spirit. A long-married couple, their affections still evident, shared a peculiar, unsettling anecdote. They remembered their deep, enduring love for each other, its warmth, a constant, comforting presence. Yet, when asked about its origin, the spark that ignited it, their eyes held a vacant uncertainty. The initial reasons, the tender moments of courtship, had simply evaporated from their shared history. A crucial piece of their narrative, the very foundation of their bond, had been silently extracted. Their smiles were stitched too tight, their contentment a fragile facade over a growing emptiness. The crew watched, a cold horror tightening their chests, seeing the ledger's pervasive, quiet theft. Every forgotten ambition, every dulled passion, every lost memory was a tally mark on the wall. The town functioned, but at what immeasurable cost to the individual souls within its borders. FluffTown's placid surface concealed a predatory engine, slowly consuming its own inhabitants. The realization was a crushing weight, a stark understanding of the Foundation's true nature. Their mission shifted from mere repair to a desperate attempt to protect what remained of humanity. The ledger was a cancerous growth, silently metastasizing through the very essence of the community. They felt a profound responsibility, a heavy burden to halt this insidious, silent consumption. The weight of stolen laughter, forgotten dreams, and erased love pressed upon their weary shoulders. They returned to the corridor, determination hardening their faces against the chilling emanations. Luma, her brow furrowed in intense concentration, began to devise a countermeasure, a protective shield. She worked with a feverish intensity, her fingers flying across a portable holographic interface. Her goal, to install a read-only buffer, a digital membrane, over the insatiable ledger's surface. This buffer would record the wall's data without triggering further updates or collecting new payments. Complex algorithms flowed from her fingertips, weaving a shimmering, ethereal net over the dust. The air crackled with energy as her device interfaced with the wall, a silent battle of wills. The dust recoiled slightly, its shimmering forms flickering in protest against the intrusion. A faint hum permeated the corridor, the buffer establishing its ethereal, protective presence. Luma's face was grim, knowing this was only a temporary measure, a reprieve, not a true solution. Pox, meanwhile, focused on the physical integrity of the corridor, sensing the wall's insidious nature. He braced the structural supports with reinforced girders, their metallic groans echoing loudly. His movements were precise, powerful, driven by a fierce resolve to contain the growing threat. He aimed to prevent the ledger wall from reforming elsewhere, from spreading its dark influence. The metal groaned under his touch, resisting the unseen forces that sought to warp its structure. Sweat beaded on his brow, his muscles straining against the immense, unseen pressure from the wall. He felt the subtle tremors in the stone, a testament to the ledger's attempt to circumvent his efforts. The corridor felt like a living thing, groaning under the strain of opposing, powerful energies. Stitch, with a defiant glint in his eyes, approached a section of the dust-covered wall intently. He carefully, meticulously, began to dust a line into the shifting gray surface with his finger. It was a message, a hidden defiance etched into the very fabric of the Foundation's control. The dust parted reluctantly, revealing the stark, defiant words underneath his steady hand. "We are not yours," the message declared, stark against the gray, a silent scream of rebellion. His heart pounded with a fierce, rebellious rhythm, a challenge against the silent oppressor. The words pulsed with a faint, internal light, a beacon of their unbroken spirit in the darkness. A sense of fragile victory settled over the crew, a momentary triumph against the ledger's power. The buffers seemed to hold. The structural braces groaned, but stood firm. The message burned brightly. They had pushed back, however briefly, against the pervasive, insidious control of the Foundation. The air felt lighter, a momentary respite from the crushing weight of the accumulated debt. Hope, a fragile, flickering ember, ignited within their chests, defying the surrounding gloom. But the silence of the corridor was deceptive, a pregnant pause before the inevitable retaliation. They knew the Foundation would not tolerate such defiance, such a blatant act of resistance. The Ledger, a sentient, vengeful entity, would undoubtedly respond with overwhelming force soon. A nervous energy crackled between them, a shared anticipation of the coming unseen storm. Their protective measures felt like a whispered challenge, a gauntlet thrown before the silent foe. The dust on the walls seemed to shimmer with a heightened intensity, a subtle warning of its awakening. Tick's watch, though no longer flashing maintained a tense, silent vigilance on his wrist. Moss kept glancing at the wall, a phantom ache lingering where his memory had been so recently. Luma meticulously monitored her buffer, watching for any subtle signs of compromise or breach. Pax remained near the braces, his hand resting on the cold metal, feeling the wall's subtle tremors. Stitch's defiant message, though small, radiated a powerful, unyielding energy in the darkness. The air was thick with unspoken tension, a fragile piece hanging precariously in the balance. Now, they knew this quiet was merely a breath held, a pause before the next, more dangerous confrontation. The Foundation's vast, unseen power was a shadow always looming, ready to reclaim its dominion. The corridor seemed to hum with a restless, impatient energy, awaiting the Ledger's next move. Their actions had provoked a sleeping giant, and its awakening would be swift and merciless now. The faint glow of Stitch's message served as a defiant, yet vulnerable, beacon in the gloom. They braced themselves, their gazes fixed on the dust-covered wall, anticipating its silent wrath. A chilling whisper seemed to emanate from the wall, a promise of swift and brutal retribution. The air grew heavier, pregnant with the unspoken threat of the Foundation's omnipresent power. Their small acts of rebellion felt like pebbles thrown against a tidal wave, yet they persisted. The Ledger's deep, resonant hum vibrated through the floor, a subtle, unsettling tremor of power. They knew their time was limited, their fragile defenses merely buying precious, stolen moments. A cold, calculating gaze seemed to pierce through the wall, assessing their every desperate effort. The dust danced with renewed vigor, an almost playful malevolence in its swirling, shifting forms. Their defiance, though empowering, also marked them further for the Foundation's cold attention. The corridor's shadows lengthened, deepening the sense of foreboding, of impending consequence. The memory of stolen laughter and forgotten love fueled their resolve, steeled their trembling hearts. They would not yield, even as the walls themselves seemed to whisper the Ledger's ancient demands. Each beat of their hearts echoed the silent, desperate struggle against an unseen, powerful foe. The air tasted of dust and defiance, a potent, dangerous cocktail of their current predicament. The very act of survival was now an act of rebellion, a refusal to surrender to the Ledger's claim. Their unity, their shared purpose, was their strongest weapon against this pervasive, silent threat. The corridor's oppressive atmosphere now felt charged with the tension of an impending, unseen battle. They held their breath, waiting for the Foundation's inevitable, chilling response to their defiance. The silence stretched, taut and brittle, after their defiant acts against the ledger's power. Their fragile defenses hummed, a temporary barrier against the pervasive, unseen forces at play. But the Foundation's patience was thin. Its cold, calculating gaze already fixed upon their rebellion. Soon, the mayor's office dispatched a contingent of cleaners, their expressions unsettlingly blank. They arrived with sterile equipment, their purpose chillingly clear: to sanitize vandalism. Their movements were robotic, efficient, devoid of any genuine human emotion or curiosity. They ignored the crew's presence, their focus solely on the dust-covered wall and its defiant message. A harsh, chemical scent filled the air as they began to spray a shimmering, iridescent solution. The liquid sizzled as it touched the dust, attempting to dissolve the cryptic tallies and messages. "Stitches we are not yours" began to blur, the vibrant words fading under the harsh, cleansing agent. Simultaneously, a city-wide notice materialized on every digital display and public billboard. Its stark, official script warned, unauthorized documentation is harmful to civic stability. The message glowed with an eerie neon certainty, a public reprimand from the unseen authority. It was a direct response, a chilling affirmation that their every move was being meticulously tracked. The Foundation's reach was omnipresent, its surveillance a suffocating blanket overflowed. Back in the corridor, the wall itself began to resist the cleaners' efforts with silent, terrifying power. The dust writhed, actively trying to erase itself in real time, absorbing the cleansing solution. It pulsed with a dark, internal energy, fighting against the attempts to scrub its insidious records. The cleaners paused, their blank faces showing a flicker of confusion as their efforts proved futile. The dust reformed, thicker and darker, its tallies re-etching themselves with chilling persistence. The wall was a living entity, a sentient ledger refusing to be silenced, refusing to be cleansed. A cold, primal fear gripped the crew. They were fighting something far beyond mere bureaucracy. The Foundation was not just a system. It was a hungry, conscious entity demanding its payment. Their hearts pounded, a frantic rhythm, against the chilling, silent will of the ledger wall. The air crackled with a palpable tension, a silent battle raging between will and ancient power. Suddenly, a new line item materialized on the wall, stark and terrifyingly clear against the gray. Door opened. Interest begins. The dust announced, its script pulsing with cold, triumphant light. A collective gasp escaped the crew's lips, a chilling realization of what that entry truly meant. Their intrusion, their very discovery, had triggered a new, more dangerous phase of the dead. Beside this terrifying declaration, another line materialized, its implications even more dire. Collateral! One fixer pending. It read, the words burning themselves into their horrified minds. The corridor plunged into an absolute, suffocating silence, broken only by their ragged breathing. This silence landed like a physical weight, crushing the air from their lungs, stealing all hope. Their faces were ashen eyes wide with terror, each contemplating the chilling meaning of the entry. One of them would be claimed, a payment for their transgression, a sacrifice to the insatiable ledger. The weight of this impending doom pressed down, a cold, inescapable reality settling upon them. Their defiant courage shattered, replaced by a profound, paralyzing fear of the unknown selection. The dust-covered wall seemed to expand, its presence growing monstrous, utterly overwhelming their senses. The air grew frigid, each breath a painful, icy gasp in the face of their impending fate. They were trapped, cornered by a sentient ledger, its hunger now focused entirely upon their group. A chilling shiver ran down their spines as 5 names began to appear on the wall-less surface. They emerged slowly, one after another, forming a vertical list in the shifting, gray dust. Each name was their own, a stark, undeniable record of their individual existence and impending doom. The top name on the list began to glow, a faint, ethereal light emanating from the dusty script. It pulsed softly, a silent, dreadful spotlight on the chosen, the first to be claimed by the debt. Their eyes darted to the glowing name, a collective horror seizing their hearts in its icy grip. A silent scream formed in their throats, each dreading whose name would shine with that ominous light. The glow intensified, a beacon of terror in the oppressive gloom of the maintenance corridor. Tick! His voice barely a whisper, his mechanical heart pounding, broke the terrifying silence. "It's choosing!" he breathed, his metallic voice laced with a profound, chilling despair. Then, his gaze fixed on the glowing name, a deeper, more horrific realization dawned upon him. Or it already did. He finished, his words hanging heavy, echoing the finality of their fate. The glowing name pulsed, a silent, unwavering judgment from the ancient, insatiable ledger. The air grew thick with the weight of this revelation, a suffocating blanket of impending doom. They stood frozen, utterly helpless, awaiting the dawn that would claim one of their own number. The dust on the wall seemed to hum with a dark, triumphant energy, its debt finally coming due. The corridor's shadows deepened, swallowing the last vestiges of their desperate, fleeting hope. The glowing name burned brighter, a chilling testament to the ledger's cold, unyielding power. Their defiance had merely accelerated the inevitable, marking them for swifter, harsher retribution. Each beat of their hearts was a drum tolling, counting down the precious, fleeting moments remaining. The Foundation's ledger had claimed its first, and its hunger was far from being truly satiated. They stared at the wall, their future written in dust, their fate sealed by a silent, glowing name. The promise of dawn, usually a symbol of hope, now loomed as a terrifying, inescapable reckoning. Their unity, once their strength, now felt like a shared sentence, a collective, agonizing weight. The chilling whisper of the ledger filled the void, sealing their fate in the oppressive darkness. The glowing name pulsed, a silent, malevolent heartbeat, drawing their horrified gazes. Each member of the crew felt a cold, sharp dread, wondering whose name shimmered with such finality. The air grew heavy with unspoken fears, a suffocating blanket of dread pressing upon their souls. They were caught in the ledger's web, their efforts to escape only tightening the unseen bonds. The very ground beneath them seemed to tremble, resonating with the ledger's ominous, silent power. Their faces, etched with despair, reflected the chilling certainty of the Foundation's imminent claim. The dust-covered wall, once a mystery, was now a terrifying mirror of their darkest, deepest fears. A profound sense of helplessness washed over them, leaving them breathless and utterly exposed. The glowing name burned, a brand upon their collective consciousness, a mark of inevitable loss. Their journey into the Foundation's depths had led them to this chilling, inescapable precipice. The silent, predatory ledger had made its choice, and there was no escape from its cold decree. They stood, united in their terror, awaiting the cruel revelation that dawn would bring to them all. The glowing name pulsed, a final, chilling beat, sealing their fate in the encroaching darkness. The debt was due, and the Foundation was coming to collect its chosen collateral at the morning's light. The silent, hungry ledger watched, its ancient gaze fixed on the crew as the first rays of dawn approached.